Thank you, brothers and sisters of the Sangha, and thank you for that lovely time of meditation that we shared together. This morning, I just would like to offer a few thoughts on something that actually one of my students brought up to me. We've heard a couple of times since I think mostly the beginning of the year, we've heard it from Thay and from some of the other teachers about the basics of what our practice is about. And there were three things that Thay mentioned. He mentioned that meditation is primary in our practice, and that metta, this loving kindness, this compassionate and generous way of dealing with ourselves and with the world is also key. And then he added the word devotion. And I'm not sure everybody had a keen connection to what the word devotion meant. At least the student that asks me didn't or wasn't as clear about what the devotion was about. So what is our devotional practice as Buddhists in this Mahayana tradition? Well, if you've come from any sort of other traditional spiritual practices, you probably already have a good idea about what devotional means in that particular practice. I came from a long time practicing member of the Catholic Church, and we had devotions in everything. You walk into the church and you dip your hand in some water and you make the sign of the cross. If you walked in front of the altar, especially when the Eucharist was in residence there, you genuflected. There were just all kinds of things. As I remember, my devotion to the rosary was very, very strong in my Catholic practice. You know, I would say the rosary, my Our Fathers, my Hail Marys, and my Glory Bees on the ride to work. That was a devotional practice that I had. If you come from a different spiritual practice, like maybe the Jewish spiritual practice, you can relate to, as you enter the door, touching the mezuzah and then offering devotion that way. Or your Friday night seders, where you have Shabbat and share particular type of food set up in a particular way. Sometimes the way we simply greet each other is a sign of devotion. If you are of the Muslim faith, you might salam alaikum when you encounter someone from that particular spiritual practice. If it's Sikh, it's Sat Sri Akal, or Hindu would be Namaste. Those are all recognizable devotions that we give to the practice that we are associated with. When Thay and I were in China before my ordination, we went to many, many temples, and there was devotion going on all over the place. There was specific ways that you walked into a temple. I think it's right foot in first, if I can remember correctly. And it was always, don't ever walk in and put your left foot in first. It was always put your right foot in. It was devotional. But there were all kinds of devotions going on. In our Buddhist practice, the lighting of incense, the prostrations or bowing before figures of the Buddha, or prostrations and bowing to our masters or our teachers is also a devotional practice. So how does this serve us? This other piece of our practice. Our devotions are connected for us in our practice so that it reminds us time and time again who we are and how we have chosen to live. In our Noble Eightfold Path, our devotions are just streaming through all of them if we look for them. In the very first one, we resolve not to kill, but to cherish all life. As we move towards being a vegetarian, possibly, that could be a devotional practice in our particular flavor of Buddhism. I think devotional practice is also moves us towards outside of ourselves. And so when we offer dana, which is support for our temples and for our practices of where we go. Our offering of support is tied all the way back to the Buddha. Lay people back then, they wanted to know, what should we do? The priests and the monks were all there doing their devotionals and offering this merit back out to the lay people. And so what was the devotion that the lay people could do? They fed the monks and they clothed the monks and they did all kinds of things. That's not so much in our practice today, but it is certainly part of our giving of dana. Going on retreats is another part of our devotional practice. In Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition of interbeing, the bell is very devotional. Every time that bell rings, all activity stops so that people can return to mindfulness. Where am I? What am I doing? How does this relate? And so these few words that I'm offering you on devotion are just simply ways of kind of keying in for yourself. What are your devotional practices? For me, coming into my temple is always prostration to the Buddha. I don't think this statue is a god. I do it out of honor and respect for the traditional teachings that were left for me by our traditional teacher, the Buddha. The lighting of incense in my house before different places I have an altar in my bedroom, and then I have the front part of the house is the temple. And offering of incense is also devotional. My wearing of a mala or one around the wrist is also another opportunity to practice devotion of chanting or reciting mantras of whatever sort. It's all development to outside of me and to move my practice into a deeper level. So think about devotions in those terms as you move through your practice as Buddha, as future Buddhas to be. This devotion will become more and more attuned in your life. And those are my thoughts for this morning. Thank you. Let us share the chant of compassion with each other. Chant of compassion. We surround all forms of life with infinite love and compassion. Especially do we send up compassionate thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet stand close to the great change called death. We send forth all wisdom, mercy, and love. And may the infinite light of wisdom and compassion so shine within us that the errors and vanities of self may be dispelled. So shall we understand the changing nature of existence and awaken into spiritual peace. And let us offer well-wishing. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. May the merit of this penetrate into each thing and all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, mahaprajna paramita, namo tassa bhagavato arahato, samasam buddhasa. Taikozen. Oh, and we have a class today at the end of this also, so I hope that many of you will stick around. We're going to talk about the precepts